And we're live. There we go, Lash. Hey,
There we
everybody. Thank
go.
you for tuning in to the Fantasy Football for Dummies by Dummies show. I don't know what to call it yet. Is it a podcast? Is it a show? Is it a who knows? Like, we'll just figure it out. You tell us at the Amateur Agency on social media. I'm your co-host, Austin Della Longa, and with me is Lash. I was trying to think of a cool nickname for you, but that's all I got. Brandon LaChapelle. He's single, ladies.
Oh my
Lash,
god.
how are you doing today?
Better than my fantasy team, that's for sure.
Oh, yep. I think I know the feeling, Lash. I've got a bye week this week because I am out of playoffs,
Oh
and
yeah.
so that's never what you want. Not ideal.
Definitely not what you want.
I wish there was like a losers final that you could win in, or a losers bracket where like you could sneak your way back into the winners bracket, but at least for the finals. But no, the consolation round is it's just the losers round.
Just
You
enough
don't
to
get
get
anything.
last.
Yeah, just don't get last. Don't get the embarrassing shirt, the fantasy football shirt. That well, I don't know. Every league is different. That's what we got, and yeah. So, anyways, speaking of which, Lash, let's just get right into the recap of our teams for last week. You go first. My team's trash. How'd it go?
Where it's not showing me how it went. Last week went pretty good. It actually went really good. I was against probably the other best team in my league, in that he has Derrick Henry and Tyreek Hill, who put up like 100 points a week prior. But yeah, my entire team kind of came through. Luckily, I decided to start Myles Gaskin over Frank Gore last minute, and he came through. My boy Corey Davis came through in a big way. Had a career day for me, for himself too, but like felt good. It felt good as a Corey Davis fan.
Yeah.
And then just everyone else had like a really solid outing. My bench was sick too. Crowder, Marquise Brown came back and had a good game. Came back from being absolute dog shit for many weeks.
Yeah, he had a big game against the old Cowboys.
Yep. Everyone played well, and that should inspire some hope going into the playoffs. But I sat Cooper Kupp, and Julio Jones is out, so it's worrisome for week one of the playoffs. That's for sure. Especially playing against Russ and DK against the Jets.
Oh, well, those pesky Jets, they might put up a fight. Maybe the Seahawks will throw up a stinker.
I mean, they lost to the Giants.
Yeah.
Never know.
Yeah, exactly. They those teams on the East Coast, they don't like them. They lost to Buffalo, didn't they? I think they actually did lose to Buffalo quite badly. And so maybe just the New York teams will just freaking sweep Seattle. They won't up in the East Coast. So that's good to hear about your team, Lash. I think that your team is just you've got so much star power that really Julio being out and you benching Cooper Kupp really isn't going to be an issue. I think you'll still throw up a massive whatever is good in PPR, like 130, 130 points, and coast on to the finals. So
I hope so. My one saving grace is that Steve had James White as his RB2, and he put up 2.8 points.
Bless. There you go.
I think it was the end of the half, though. It had me sweating when he got out and like had that big breakaway run, and there was just no one around him. I'm like, oh my god, is this how I lose my fantasy playoffs on a last second run play from the 30?
That was as a Patriots fan, for those who don't know, and for those who know how the game went, or for those who don't know how the game went, it wasn't good. But that run was probably our longest offensive play, and it had me excited. And it got called back on a hold, which I still like. At the end, I don't know. Why are we're not well coached, I guess. Bill Belichick's overrated. Just kidding, he's not. But I'm just sad.
Face superior.
Yeah. There's been a lot of debate on Twitter. Even today, I was going to engage with those people, and I will talk fantasy in a second here, but there was somebody on Twitter, and there's multiple people encouraging it, that were saying that Belichick is basically overrated without Tom Brady. So I'm not loving the people talking about New England right now, especially because of things like that, where this guy used to be a consensus goat of a coach all time, and here we are now. We're like, oh, is he even that good? So he's a losing coach without Tom Brady, is what the argument was, and I don't know what to say. Do we just forget about all the good coaching jobs that he's done against some of these teams, like where Brady? Yes, Brady's great, but like, do we just forget about all the coaching jobs? Like the Rams game, did Brady stop them? And in the Super Bowl, did he hold them to 3 points? I don't know. I think there was good coaching against the number one offense in the league. How about the Rams in the early 2000s for the Patriots' first Super Bowl on this run, when they also slowed down the best offense in the league? The greatest show on turf, I think, was what they were called, and got a Super Bowl out of it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like, what do I know? I'm just a guy on the amateur agency and now on the Fantasy Football for Dummies by Dummies show. So I don't know anything. And
it sounds like a topic for Third and Wrong.
I know. I just
Not
had
to
to go
cut
on the
you
rant
off or
because I saw
anything,
it today.
but
I know. I will get into fantasy now. I saw it today and I was heated. I was supposed to be working. Sorry, Scotiabank. But I saw it and it just heated me. So anyways, back to fantasy. My team lost. I lost by 20 points. I started the Carolina Panthers defense, who was on bye, because I wanted them for playoffs. And the Browns got me 0 points the week before, and that was me trying to stream a defense. So this was kind of like, whatever, I'm not affecting the standings, but the rest of my team did good, other than the Panthers defense. They were partying and getting COVID. But I threw in Gus Edwards. Jonathan Taylor had a big game, so 29 points out of those two guys. Jonathan Taylor looking like he's back to that workhorse that I thought he could be, and he had potential of being. Keenan Allen got slowed down in the 45-0 rout by the Patriots. AJ Brown was rather quiet. Oh, he got injured on a play where he would have been open for a touchdown early on in the game, but he twisted his ankle or something like that, but he came back. He was good. Brandon Ayuk,
he fumbled on the goal line, and someone else came in and scooped
that was
it
when
up for the TD.
The tight end, yes. Oh, that was big pain watching that. He fumbles right at the goal line. Teammate gets the ball and goes in for the touchdown. That would have been nice. Still would have lost, but at least I was already out of the playoffs, so this one I didn't have a lot riding on it. But some things to be excited about, even though it's a redraft league and I don't get to keep any of these pieces. I was happy to see Jonathan Taylor finally prevail out of that slump. So that was that. Still out of the playoffs. And let's move on to some matchups for this week, Lash. I've got quite a few on my team in the consolation round on a bye. I'll still touch on them because of other people who could benefit from this. But what are some nice matchups you got cooking up over there in the Dynasty League?
This is another issue with my team. There's a few good matchups. Like, luckily I picked up Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Josh Allen just like dismantled the 49ers last week. So that Pittsburgh game could be less worrisome, but I'm still rolling with Rodgers this week against Detroit, who have been susceptible and recently much better under their interim head coach. So that could be a bit more of a back and forth game where Aaron Rodgers hopefully has to throw the ball and score some touchdowns. Because if he doesn't, he has no running ability. So I'm worried about that. But he's been good. MVP candidate, Aaron Rodgers, locked and loaded. Alvin Kamara against the Eagles. Yeah, can't bench him. Well, I could for Josh Allen, but most people can't. Most people don't have that luxury, I guess.
Exactly, yeah.
Alvin Kamara against the Eagles. That's worrisome. There was some hope that Drew Brees would be back. that hope has been ripped away from me. So now we're playing against the good Eagles front with a guy who makes his hay in the passing game and a QB who doesn't pass him the ball. Um, but okay, into some encouraging ones. Myles Gaskin against the Chiefs. That sounds like not a great matchup because the Chiefs have a pretty decent overall defense, but they're actually like middle of the pack to running backs, and Gaskin stepped right back into his workhorse role with like 23 touches last week. So encouraging signs there. And then my guy, Corey Davis, my WR1 this week again against Jacksonville. Hopefully we don't just hand the ball off to Derrick Henry 45 times and we actually have to pass a little bit. That's a bit of a concern, but they are 30th ranked against receivers. So hopefully, I'm really hoping. Jamison Crowder plays the 32nd ranked Seattle Seahawks. Again, betting big on the Jets here. But with Darnold in the lineup, Jamison Crowder averages about 20 fantasy points per game. So.
Oh, but that Seahawks defensive front is just going to feast on that Jets. I'm sorry, you keep going and then we'll talk about it after.
Oh. It's fine. Yeah, it's fine. I have minuscule hope already, so thanks for that.
It's like that dog in the burning room. It's like, oh, this is good, or this is fine, or whatever.
But then I have Marquise Brown against Cleveland, who Corey Davis just torched, and Lamar Jackson is no Ryan Tannehill. Never thought I'd say those words, but I much more trust Ryan Tannehill throwing the ball. Yeah, so I'm hoping that he can have a third good game in a row. Otherwise, I might have to start Gio Bernard in my flex. And I'm also not very happy against that, despite Dallas just giving up like 300 rushing yards. But yeah, those are kind of my decisions to make: Crowder, Marquise Brown, and Gio Bernard. And I really have no idea which way I lean. They all kind of have the same kind of outlook.
Yeah, it's massive boom or bust on all three counts. So you might I get why you'd stick with Crowder. Like the Jets have to at least, get some points, you'd think, but
Mims is out, so that's a good secondary option gone for them. So hopefully the connection stays strong.
Yeah, exactly. Well, fingers crossed for you, Lash. It's not sounded too pleasant over there, but boom or bust is good because it could always boom. So
we're hoping for the boom.
Yeah, you're just all in on the boom though. So I've got a couple juicy ones here. Jonathan Taylor is up against the Raiders in a nice matchup for some serious wild card implications. Raiders are number 29 ranked stop it for for fantasy against running backs. So that's a good matchup. Keenan Allen against the 31st ranked Falcons defense to wide receivers. So I wouldn't put too much. I don't think that the Chargers offense just all of a sudden was bad. I think the Patriots just had a really good game plan. They've got some really good, like Stephon Gilmore shut down Keenan Allen. I don't think that that's reason to believe this will continue to happen. AJ Brown against the 28th ranked Jags, 30th for what's the platform you guys use again?
Sleeper,
30th and Sleeper. So it's either way, really good matchup. Panthers D against the Broncos, if they're available, I mean, that would be probably a pretty good steal.
For sure.
The Panthers
Mr.
defense,
Inconsistency, Drew Lock.
Exactly. Yeah. He's cool when he's dancing on the sidelines, but that's about all he's got going for him right now. He's not looking like the future there in Denver, unfortunately. And then this one, as of this morning when I had checked, DeAndre Swift was going to be good to go, but it's not. It's got to go through the independent neurologist or whatever the NFL has to see if he can come back from concussion. So I'd watch this one, but either way, the stable of running backs there, if DeAndre Swift isn't good to go, they're up against the 30th ranked Green Bay Packers run defense. So a good matchup there. I would really like it if DeAndre Swift, if you've got him, I think this would be a great game for you to start him and put your trust in him off of an injury in the playoffs, because he is their guy. Darrell Bevel is the offensive or the interim head coach, and I think he knows how to use these guys a little bit better than Matt Patricia was never calling the plays, but Darrell Bevel has utilized DeAndre Swift very well in both the run game and the passing game. So this is a game where they're going to need to maintain ball control, because like Lash had said before, Aaron Rodgers is probably going to be throwing the ball a lot in this game. So try to shorten the game a little bit in the run. So I really like the Lions RBs in this one. If DeAndre Swift isn't good to go, you could still get away with Carry On and AP.
I don't know if you can get away with Carry On. That hasn't gone well. And he was losing touches to Jamal Agnew. He's listed as receiver, DB, RB on my platform.
Oh, that's not ideal. Okay, maybe just AP.
Yeah, that's what I would say too.
Yeah. When he gets the ball, he looks good at times, but yeah, I guess it's more often than not that he doesn't look good. So that's unfortunate.
Or just doesn't get the ball.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true too. You got Matt Stafford. You might as well throw the ball, which is something they didn't do a lot during Thanksgiving and prime time. I still can't believe that, but I'm over it. As a Matt Stafford fan, I just want to see that guy cook. We got Russ cooking because of that offseason trend. So now let's get Twitter to start activating the Matt Stafford. I don't know. I don't know what we could say, but cooking is overrated. Baker bakes. Matt Stafford can just, I don't know. Lash, you come up with one and we'll get back.
I don't got a good one.
All right. Okay. Well, we'll steal cooking for now. Next week, we'll be back with a Matt Stafford, something he can do, a verb. So, all right. Anything to add about those matchups, Lash? Any hindrances or disagreements before we move on to the hype train? All right. Well, let's make our way to the train station. We've got a couple people on the hype train. We gotta see if we're buying or selling our tickets. Lash, who do you got? I think let's talk about the guy we both have on our list here.
So obviously Jalen Hurts coming into the starting spot for Carson Wentz. I'm not buying my ticket for this one. I'm just gonna park my ass on the seats in the train station and watch that train depart. Especially against the Saints, they're too good of a defense to just trust a rookie quarterback getting thrown into the fire there. Jalen Hurts looked pretty good last week when he took over for Carson Wentz, but that was a lot of dumbed down defense. Green Bay kind of had it in. That's who they played, right? Green Bay?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Green Bay had it in hand, so they were playing a bit of just prevent defense, kind of give them the short stuff, just don't let them get beat. And he managed that well, but that's not what the Saints are going to do all game. And Peterson calls a different offense for his quarterbacks other than Carson Wentz. So maybe the simplified offense will help him, but I'm not buying my ticket. Not against the Saints, at least. Maybe we can revisit it next week, but
yeah,
it's a no for me.
Yeah, that's fair. I battled with this one so hard. Part of me just loves a good underdog story, and Jalen Hurts is kind of in that spot right now against probably one of the better defenses, if not the best defense, or the best all-around team, I guess, in the league against the Saints. So that's a tough ask, and it's kind of a brutal move by Doug Peterson to throw him into the fire like that. This is the week you decide to make that change. Really, Dougie? It's not going to look good. And then he's just going to be like, oh, well, he wasn't good, so we'll go back to Wentz. And then you're going to start a flip-flop situation. But so that's why I'm just kind of leaning towards buying my ticket, because I think that Jalen Hurts, he faced some pretty tough competition in Alabama. And I'm not saying the NFL is college football, but I'm saying he's got got some experience against some tough competition, and he has done well in the face of adversity. However, I'm just not buying what the rest of the Eagles is selling me. So
True.
I think that this is all around. Jalen Hurts might have an okay game, but for fantasy, I'm selling my ticket. I said I'm buying, I'm selling. I meant to say I'm not buying my ticket. I think I might grab a newspaper and just stay on the park bench for another train to come by. I've got a cool train. Every week it's the same thing. I try to draw this analogy out. It just doesn't work. So maybe I'll stop it right there. So moving on. So that's a no bueno on Jalen Hurts. I've got a good one, Lash. I know you already know it. I don't know if you agree, but Michael Pittman a few weeks ago was getting some serious hype around him. He had a big week against the Tennessee Titans, and then he had a game against somebody who I forget right now, and then another one against the Tennessee Titans. But it's kind of fallen off ever since that original hype. And so I just wanted to touch on this because he was getting some targets, but he's not getting the production. Right. T.Y. Hilton's kind of was non-existent there for a little bit. But I think that people bought their tickets a little too soon on Michael Pittman here. He is definitely good, and Steve had him as one of his top 5 ranked wide receivers heading into this year. However, I think with this Colts offense, it should just be a no-go on Michael Pittman. Yes, he's getting the targets, and I made this argument for Cam Akers, but running back is a little bit different, and the offenses are much different as well. So that with the Colts being the way that they are, wanting to focus on the run, I'm out on Michael Pittman. Again, I am not. Yes, he had a few good weeks, and there's probably some homers out there that are like, that Steve's probably one of them. How could you go against my guy? Well, I'm just not going with him the rest of the year. So see ya. Sayonara, Michael Pittman. Probably just ignore the rest of the Colts wide receivers, except for one who I've got next on the Flyers of the week. But Michael Pittman's not it.
Yeah, I would have to agree. He's just not been consistent enough for a rookie to be trusting him in the fantasy playoffs. Like you said, he's getting targets. He's getting the snap count. He's at 80% plus basically since he came back from his injury. And it's translated to a few good games. Like, he only really has 2 objectively bad games in PPR anyways, since week 8. That being the first week he was back with like 1.6 points. And then 2 weeks ago against Tennessee, he only put up less than 5, but he saw 9 targets in that game still. Mm-hmm. Other than that, he's put up 9.6, 19.2, 15.6, and 9.6 again. So like, if you don't have better options, you can start him as like a flex option because he's got good matchups again in Vegas and Houston. But like, definitely temper expectations. You're not starting him as like a WR2 or anything. You're really just like relying on the matchups there. And I don't know I don't know enough about real life football. I'm just a fantasy nerd. So if you are more in tune with that kind of stuff and you can identify a matchup where they have like a bad slot cornerback or whatever that Pittman could take advantage of because he runs a lot of his offense out of the slot, then I think he's a good, decent start. But I agree with you. I'm not, I wouldn't trust him for the rest of this year. Going forward, he might be decent, but this year I'm out.
Beautiful. That's all I got for the hype train. Who you got?
All right. I've got, well, I'll just do a 2-piece for you, literally for you, because they're your guys. Jonathan Taylor and Cam Akers, they seem to have kind of turned the corner. They've taken control of their respective offenses, at least as far as like snap counts and carries and stuff go. Cam Akers in particular, after you made that call to grab him, he's just all of a sudden absolutely rocketed up. Like, one big break of a run we talked about before the show, and all of a sudden he's just climbing and climbing. 22 opportunities week 13, and then I guess Thursday Night Football, he saw 32 opportunities, 29 carries, 194 total yards. He's just completely taken over this backfield, 80+% of snaps. It's the Cam Akers show in the Rams, or in Los Angeles, I guess. So I'm on board for both of those hype trains, finally.
Beautiful. 5 weeks I've been pounding the Jonathan Taylor ticket. And here we are. It's finally broken through after a couple derailments, one might say, of the hype train. I have been there. So yes, I am totally buying, and I'm keeping on my stock for Jonathan Taylor and Cam Akers. I mean, everybody who's watched us for the last 3 weeks knows I am definitely buying my Cam Akers ticket, especially after he just decimated my Patriots' playoff hopes. So he looked really freaking good. But I'll save that for third and wrong. As you mentioned last show. Too many tangents. All right. Who else you got? Or is that it? Are we moving on to flyers?
No, I got 2 more guys. One is a my guy, or like literally my guy. And then another one is somebody you kind of talked about last week in not so many words, not directly about him, but David Montgomery. Part of what you said was a pretty bad Bears rushing offense, which might be true as far as real life football goes. But for fantasy, David Montgomery's been pretty damn consistent and like just a stud the last 2 weeks with 25 and 27 points. The RB1 this past week. And basically since Tariq Cohen went down, he saw like pretty much an average of 5 targets a game too, to go with about, looks like an average of like 15 carries. So the yards aren't always pretty, and you definitely don't want to be watching the games because the running isn't always pretty. But he's been getting it done. He's a solid RB2 with RB1 and like the RB1 upside apparently. There's only been 3 weeks that he's been less than 10 points, and 2 of those weeks he barely missed it, right around 8 points. So, and those were early in the season.
Good.
Yeah, he's around 80% snaps, 10 plus points, 50 over the last 2 weeks combined. I am on board with the Montgomery hype train because his playoff schedule is Houston, Minnesota, and Jacksonville. And Tristan, aka Tyreek Hill and Derrick Henry owner, also has him. Very, very scared.
Wow. I just pulled up that schedule right before you listed it off. I saw so much green.
Literally since week 9, just bright green.
Yeah, and then those 20 pieces that he put up last week and the week before, it's just like, oh, good. I don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, it's not pretty to watch. But yeah, that's a juicy schedule. And when Mitch Trubisky is, when he is turning over the ball, they're going to throw it in David Montgomery's hands. So, so I totally, yeah. I mean, he's given me every reason to buy my ticket to board this train. So I'm in on David Montgomery, even though the Bears offense is still terrible to watch. Yes, and it's terrible. And they'll probably lose this week again and make it 6 in a row, 7 in a row, 7 in a row.
What did they start, 5-1, and now they're just ass and ass?
Yeah. Ass and ass. Yeah. That's it. Those are your options as a Bears fan. You get ass or you get ass. So. All right. Who else you got, Lashy?
My final guy. One of the reasons that I started to enjoy watching football as they took it to your Patriots a couple years ago, or at least played a really nice competitive game against your Patriots. I don't remember the actual outcome, but I remember this being like the defining moment of, hey, football's kind of cool. Corey Davis, Tennessee Titans, WR1. Just kidding. He's the WR2 now, and he fits that role a lot better. Although you could argue with his targets and whatnot that he could be just the 1A and 1B with AJ Brown there. Last week, WR1 on the oh my God, out of all the receivers, he was the WR1. 12 targets, 182 yards, touchdown, 35 PPR points, which was 24 standard points. Still really, really good. He hasn't had a game outside of double-digit points himself, outside of the Bears game in Week 9 where he put up 0. But I'm willing to forgive that. Even the best receivers have bad games. But I also expected that. I think Tannehill only completed like 10 out of 20 passes, so it wasn't like a game that we were expecting him to go off or anything. Yeah, double-digit points every game, even in tough matchups. He's been getting it done. Big playability, touchdowns. Well, 4 of them, not that many, but a decent amount, I guess. And yeah, a good schedule coming up. Jacksonville, Detroit, and then Green Bay, who is tough, but it could be a shootout, so he could still get a lot of work, a lot of targets anyways. And yeah, I mean, I'm on board. This is literally my favorite player in the league. how are you feeling about Corey Davis?
Yeah, I don't blame you. For those who don't know, Lash is a Titans fan, so this is his guy for sure. But yeah, no, I have really enjoyed seeing Corey Davis come out here this year because everybody had rightfully, I think, labeled him a bust for where he was drafted. I believe 8th overall in 2016.
7th or 8th, maybe 7th.
7th or 8th. Yeah, it was one of those. And so there's a lot of pressure that comes with being a top 10 pick in general, but especially a wide receiver when you're not putting up ungodly numbers. When we had kind of been blessed with like the likes of OBJ and others who had been drafted relatively high. Other names escape me right now. Of course, I just think of one. It's like nice, but he wasn't putting up anything close to those types of performances. So having AJ Brown, I think, take away the pressure of a wide receiver one. It's like you had said, 1A, 1B. I think that's a good way of putting it because Corey Davis really does look like a wide receiver one when he does have the ball in his hands. Like it's just Arthur Smith. I think I don't know if it's the way that Arthur Smith, the Titans offensive coordinator, has kind of developed this offense. But last year, you really saw them pound the rock with Derrick Henry. This year, you're seeing them incorporate the pass a lot more because they have to. They can't be so reliant on Derrick Henry. And when you see Corey Davis get the chances, he's making the most of them. So you said big playability. I'd still say that's totally true. He's getting lots of yards in these games. And so with matchups against the Jags and the Lions, I think that he is going to be a must start the rest of the year. And even when he had played the Colts the first time, and I'm pulling it up here, so that at the time, I think the Colts were the #1 ranked wide receiver defense on the fantasy football app that I use. And he still put up over 10 points in PPR. So he'll be up against as of right now, the 7th ranked Packers defense in the championship round. I mean, at that point, you can make the judgment call, but I still think that you ride him the rest of the way for playoffs because he's given you no reason not to trust him. I'm totally all in on this. I really like that. Really like that hype there. I just hyped it up even more. We both did, just pumping the tires of this hype train.
I love to hear it. Although now that we've given him all this praise, he's gonna come out and
he's getting 0.
Absolutely derail my playoff chances here.
Yeah, he's getting 0. You might as well bench him now after all that hype. Quick recap on last week's hype train, just because I forgot. Kiki Kuti, he was a cutie. He got 14 points last week against the Colts. And Devontae Booker was not a cutie. He got 5 points against the abysmal Jets as the Jets almost beat the Raiders, which was surprising. So that's the hype train. Let's get into some flyers of the week. Need some. Quick recap again. Lash had touched on Akers. He had 15.4 points in standard against the Cardinals. Trubisky, 13.28 points. I knew I shouldn't have trusted him. Jordan Reed and Robert Tanyan got over 9 points in standard each, so I was really happy with those. Didn't listen to my own advice because I believed in Austin Hooper, but didn't. That matchup did not prevail. Lash, is that all we had for Flyers, or who'd you have?
I also believe you said Darius Slayton.
Oh, Darius Slayton, yeah, and he had 1.4 in standard, I think.
Sorry,
I'm off the Darius Slayton.
I had to get that in there.
Thank you. I had it crossed off in my notes from last week, and I think I might have done that because I knew it was going to be a bad pick. 0 points the week before. I wrote him again in 1.4 points. So I'm really glad I didn't trade for him.
Yeah. So I only had to get that in there because I did terribly as well. I think it's mostly misses on my list too. Were you going to say something more? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just going to say I hope that people who had listened to me when I said if you can make a trade for Darius Slayton for your playoff run, do it. That was like 3 weeks ago that I made that that statement, and hopefully nobody made the trade. If you did, I'm sorry.
It was funny. I saw he actually just got dropped and then re-picked up in my league, and I was like, "Oh, nice." Right after Ozzy has him as like his start of the week or whatever.
Yeah, all good.
But okay, yeah, I missed a lot. Frank Gore, I mean, that's not really my fault. He got concussed on the second play. It's not like he just had an outright bad game. And you could project that he would have done well because Ty Johnson and Josh Adams came in and just like dismantled the Raiders on the ground. 190 yards on 30 carries between the two of them. But then it got bad again. I said carry on in PPR. Like I said earlier, Jamal Agnew was getting a number of the receiving reps, and I was like, what the hell, who is this guy even? Look him up, and he plays like 4 different positions. Oh, no. So I wasn't happy about that. And then Josh Reynolds, I've been advocating for him. He was literally just like soaring up the depth chart or whatever. I mean, he was always their third receiver, but his snap percentages were like 70, 80, 70, 80, 80, 91, 98. And then last week when I say, yeah, go start him in a good matchup against Arizona, he all of a sudden just gets 46%. Like, just gets usurped by Van Jefferson out of nowhere, or seemingly nowhere. So yeah, that wasn't a fun experience either. Aguilar, I didn't watch this game, but his stat line looks a little bit like his old Philly stat lines. 4 for 11 receptions for like 7.8 points in PPR. So like that's meh, but it's not like the 10-point threshold that I kind of look for in these. And then Kyle Rudolph, I said he's probably a really good starter at tight end. The big old 0 points, 0 receptions, 2 targets, 70% of the snaps though, and just nothing. But
pain.
That has a lot to do with Dalvin Cook getting like 42 opportunities.
That'll do it.
Carried the ball over 30 times and saw like 9 targets or something. So yeah, I did pretty shit. I hit on both my quarterbacks, Taysom Hill and Kirk Cousins, who are basically not even Flyers anymore. And I just say it because they're on my waiver wire. They probably shouldn't be on any waiver wires with the way they've both been playing. They've been putting up 20 pieces each for like weeks on end, but they're there. So if they're there for you, go get them. And then Adrian Peterson, 2 TDs again, 4 in the last 2 games. If DeAndre Swift isn't there, I know we talked about it earlier, I think AP is probably the guy again. Just because obviously there's no consistency in who's seeing the touches behind him. Mm-hmm. And then Anthony Ferkser had a decent game for a tight end for PPR. Anyway, he had 5 receptions, 51 yards, and Pruitt snagged that touchdown. I think he was the one who picked it up off the ground though, so that doesn't really count.
He got 2 touchdowns, I think, that game too.
Oh, did he? Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. But
he picked up the one and got a receiving. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, he did vulture a touchdown then from Ferkser, but 5 points in standard, that's okay. I mean, out of the tight end slot.
You know my luck at tight ends. It's been tough sledding. So 5 points, I would be celebrating right now.
He didn't give you 0, so that's a step in the right direction out of the tight end spot. And
Beats
yeah,
the
that's all.
2.8 I got from Hooper.
That's all my guys.
Okay, beautiful. So if you listen to about 50% of our flyers of the week, you'll get a
Be
decent
disappointed.
outcome. Yeah, you'll get a decent outcome. Yeah, so that's last week. So let's just touch on a couple this week. I've got T.Y. Hilton was on the waiver wire, surprisingly, after a couple big weeks in a row, 11 points and 17 points in standard scoring. Last week, he had 11 targets, 8 catches. So they're obviously incorporating him and back into the offense like he should be, rightfully so. He's was one of the better wide receivers in the league at one point. So he's up against the Las Vegas Raiders at the 20th ranked defense for wide receivers. So I really like this play this week. This one is tough because I did say that Jonathan Taylor is the it's obviously a nice matchup for them as well. I don't think that you necessarily can't start multiple players from the same team. I just never feel right doing that because unless it's 2 elite players, I feel really dirty doing it. Like I'm kind of cheering against one guy for the other. But in this matchup, I think it could be high scoring enough that we could see some serious production out of both of those guys. Lash, do you feel the same way, or is that just me being a little weird?
No, over the last couple games, he's done very well. His snap percentages are a little bit worrying. They're only in the 60s, but maybe he's finally bouncing back. Prior to this past week, he hasn't had a 100-yard game since week 16 of 2018. So he's definitely not like a reliable option right now. But against a Vegas and then Houston matchup, Houston, he seems to dominate every time he plays them. But that's only if you make it to week 15. For this week, I think I would say that he's a viable start. Vegas is very hit and miss, but they're typically competitive, barring that blowout 2 weeks ago. I think T.Y. Hilton's a pretty safe start, but I wouldn't trust him as like your WR1. That's for sure. If T.Y. Hilton's your WR1, you're in rough sledding, I guess.
Yeah, I think he was 40% rostered. So if he's your WR1, we'll talk about how you're
living in the
trade
past
next year. Yeah, you can maybe make some trades next year. Who else you got for Flyers of the week? I got a couple others, but let's hear what you got.
At QB, I have the usual suspects, Kirk Cousins and Taysom Hill. Again, like I said, they're there for my league. If they are for yours as well, they're definitely probably QB1s, both of them. I don't know why they're on my waiver wire. And then Andy Dalton, he's been playing decent, but it's the Andy Dalton experience. You could get 12 points, you could get 6 points, but in a pretty good matchup. I don't have it pulled up, but last week he had 18 points. This week he plays Cincinnati. Cincinnati's been pretty exploitable. If this is a more reasonable streamer kind of guy, so if he's there and you're desperate, then play him. But hopefully you're not this desperate going into your playoffs, honestly. That goes for a lot of these Flyers, though. Like, I hope you don't have to turn to any of these guys.
Yeah, they're Flyers because you got to take a flyer on them. You don't want to be trusting these guys as your, like you said, WR1 or QB1. Andy Dalton is not that. This is a good week-to-week segment. Lash, I got your guy. Laviska Shenault. And who did we say the Jags are playing? Tennessee. The Tennessee defense just got torched last week against the Browns. It was, I was cheering for I didn't know who I was cheering for, but after the Browns got up 38-7, I started cheering for the Titans to come back and let the Browns brown themselves. And the defense just couldn't make a stop when they needed to. So I'm thinking Mike Glennon, who's been surprisingly really good, like making games competitive in Jacksonville
Yeah.
of all the places and times. Like what this is the ultimate tank job by Jacksonville. Anyways, Laviska Chenault is going to be the benefactor of this, or the beneficiary of Mike Glennon's generosity in dishing out competitive games. If that Borders defensive back for Tennessee is on Laviska Chenault, I think Chenault might go for 200 yards
Oh
because
my
Borders
God.
did not look good at all. I mean, that's not my take officially, but Borders is just trash, or he didn't look good last week, anyways.
I don't even know who that is.
Yeah,
It's my team
he
and I
might
don't
not
know
even be
who
on the
that is.
team.
I thought you meant like a Borders, like an outside corner or something. I
Oh
didn't know
no.
there was actually a guy called Borders.
Oh, he got
Shit.
feasted. He got ate alive on against the Browns. It wasn't pleasant to watch. Couldn't make a defensive play if his life depended on it. So as a
Good.
result, I've got Laviska Chenault, who should be on like that kind of a guy, because Malcolm Butler should be taking up DJ Chark and or DD Westbrook. I haven't even heard DD's name. Is he even healthy? I
I was
probably should
gonna
have looked into
say,
that before I say
I,
that live, but
I don't know
I
if
don't
DD
think it.
Westbrook is even one of their main options if he is healthy, because they run with Keelan Cole quite a bit.
Oh, Keelan Cole's the other
Chanel,
guy
Colin
and
Johnson, I
DK.
think is the rookie's name. The other rookie, he's been having a pretty good back-to-back weeks. And then like Chris Conley sees a few snaps a game too. I don't know if
Hmm.
they have a lot of like decent but not good receivers.
Yeah, that kind of explains the Jags. They're good but not great. Like I know they're 1-11 or whatever, 1-12, but like I mean they got talent. They're just offensively. I think they're set. It's just really bizarre that like they're as bad as they are. I feel like they
True.
should have been better this year. They started off with a big win against my Super Bowl team, the Colts, and then they go and lose 12 straight games. Like, nice.
Sweet.
Anyways, thanks for getting our hopes up. Anyways, Laviska Chenault, start him if you got him, if you can get him. Or, I mean, quite frankly, I would be, like you said, Keelan Cole, Lash. I would be comfortable starting either of those two. Thoughts / who's next?
Yeah. I see Steve is starting Keelan Cole, and I'm honestly pretty happy about that. Um, for the reasons that I just stated, like they have so many decent options that I don't know outside of DJ Chark, no one's gonna really be like a high target option. So I'm also not sure about starting Chenault, but they do like to work him in like multiple ways. He gets a few carries here and there, um, gets a decent number of targets. So I think Chenault is definitely out of that group, the one that you can play.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I wouldn't be necessarily that comfortable with it, but it's just a flex play. Like he's as good a dart throw as anyone else on these lists, and definitely better than like a lot of the guys that I have on here, I think.
I think that needs to be stated too for some people who might be new to fantasy football. When I played and when I won in 2013, I know that's so many years ago now. It's not even, it's more of a joke than it is. But when I won, I was a lot more comfortable with the fact of, or with the idea of playing for the matchup. And I think that this is one of those weeks where you should be looking to do that in the playoffs, especially. Just try to find those matchups. And if you have, and as long as the offense that you're trusting in isn't inept, like, I mean, I can't even use the Jets as an example, but like the Brandon Allen led Bengals, if you're
True.
trusting in those guys, then that's, even if they had a good matchup, then don't do it. But like we know that Mike Glennon can make some of these guys look good, surprisingly, if the last couple weeks are any indication. So be comfortable trusting in those matchups, because I think that's something that um, isn't always, like sometimes you want to go with name power, and if it's not like a surefire wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 that you should always be starting, you might go for name power over for like a wide receiver 3 in the flex spot, but maybe you should be starting somebody else who isn't as prominent with their name, but you know they've got a good matchup. So keep that in mind. That's
For example, me starting Crowder over Cooper Cup. It might not work out based on how Cooper played last night, but or I guess 2 nights ago. but the process was good. New England usually slows the game down. Cup only saw 5 targets and only scored 30 yards, but the TD kind of put him over the top. But like, it's just that process of like, that's the first time that I benched him all year. Not a good look, I know, in hindsight, but the process was good.
Exactly. Yeah. So there you go. There's your advice for this episode. If you've made it in almost an hour in, then there you go. You're benefiting somehow. So Lash, I guess you should go into your next guy. I didn't realize I took the thunder from you.
Oh, that's fine. I'm just going to run through a few guys pretty quickly because they've been on the list before. If Frank Gore's healthy, he's like a meh play there again, just because Adam Gase loves to give him the ball. If he's not healthy, Ty Johnson's in play again, I think. I know last year, I think I picked up Ty Johnson in this exact same scenario and was pretty much forced to play him. And he absolutely killed my chances and like lost me the game that would have put me into playoffs or some shit.
Ooh.
So it's not a glowing endorsement, but if last week is any barometer, he could be a viable piece. And then again, is it Devontae Booker?
Yep.
Devontae, yeah, okay. We touched on him. He didn't have the best game, but he put up 50 yards. He saw about 18 opportunities. So again, the process, he's seeing the looks, but like obviously you're keeping in mind that this is still Devontae Booker, and a 5-point game or less is still in the cards in the range of outcomes. AP we touched on. And then if you're feeling super desperate, Peyton Barber is an option. With Antonio Gibson out, he saw 14 carries last week. He does not get a lot of yardage. I think he got like 23 yards on 14 carries, but he's their goal line guy for the most part. So he could score a touchdown. And then receivers, I just have a few guys that I touched on before. Russell Gage with Julio out. That's just kind of hoping that game pops off a little bit and Matt Ryan has to throw the ball. Brashad Perriman, again, betting on the Jets, but he's been a pretty good deep threat for them over the last like 5 weeks or so since he came back, I think, from injury. And again, that's just betting on the Seahawks being a bad defense against receivers. Rashard Higgins, I've had in there prior, but he finally showed out last week. He plays Baltimore this week. Not a great matchup. He's worth having on your team, though. And then on the other side, Willie Snead. Again, not an ideal matchup. He's kind of like the Laviska Shenault situation where, honestly, Mike Glennon's probably a better passer this year than fucking Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of yardage to go around, but Willie Snead seems to get a decent amount of targets a game. It's definitely like the riskiest and like the one that I would advise to avoid the most, but the waiver wire was looking pretty dry this week. And yeah, probably don't start Willie Snead, but no, he's an option. He's gonna have to compete with Mark Andrews coming back, Hollywood Brown, and Devin Duvernay, who's been playing a lot of snaps for them. But they're both options, Duvernay and Snead, if you're desperate.
Yeah. So he's a flyer, but we're just like doing like a half flyer on Willie Snead.
Yeah, like, he's like just a flyer to the flyer.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so Laviska Shenault, Willie Snead.
Yeah,
but like he's still in the picture. He's still in the picture.
He's at the very bottom of the barrel.
Yeah. Another guy, you had mentioned Peyton Barber. I actually circled these guys together. JD McKissick as well. If you're in PPR, absolutely, I think is a play. Had 10 catches last week. So like literally the guy could get you 1 yard and still be good. Like it'd still be worth the play. Points. Yeah. So that's a benefit of PPR for sure, and especially against that San Francisco defense. Like they're injured, but holy crap, are they still like churning out pressure on the defensive line? It's really incredible. So Alex Smith might have some problems there and be forced to dump it off very quickly. So Yeah, that'd be a good one. And then, I mean, I've got Jared Cook on here. I just touch on that quick. I don't, because I put him here because I was not buying the Jalen Hurts hype train ticket, boarding pass, whatever you want to call it. And so I figure that the Saints offense is going to be on the field a lot this game. And because Jalen Hurts, he has to, like, they can't just flip-flop quarterbacks. I've said that before, and I don't think that's a way to go. So if he's not good, the Saints are just going to run the table. And Jared Cook's a red zone threat. He's got, I had how many targets? I think he had 5 targets last week. So as Taysom Hill continues to evolve as a passer, it's shown even last week in the red zone, surprisingly, Taysom Hill threw the ball and got Jared Cook a touchdown. So it's like, well, there we go. So there's hope there. And yeah, trust in it. I mean, never have high hopes on tight end, but apparently my flyers of the week for tight ends hit last week. So let's just ride the hot hand. Go with Jared Cook.
All right, I've got 3 rapid fire tight ends. Dalton Schultz just attacking that Cincinnati matchup again, and Schultz is like that kind of like borderline type of tight end where it's like you want to play him in matchups, not all the time. I know we burned you last week, but Austin Hooper, if there's a place that Baltimore is exploitable, it's at the tight end position. And then Cole Kmet of the Chicago Bears, he's kind of taken over that starting primary role. He's usurped Jimmy Graham, and he's had a few good games, and he should continue to fill that role going forward. Beautiful. So if you need like a season-long guy.
Yeah, Cole Kmet's, he's an interesting guy. He was a good prospect coming out, so we'll see how he develops. But yeah, that would be a good one. I mean, really, tight end is just one of those positions so polarizing. It's like you're either going to get a guy who's going to get you a touchdown, or you're going to get 2.8 points or 0. So, all right, is that all you got for flyers, Lach?
That's finally it.
Okay. No, I didn't mean to sound like that. I was just excited for the listener submissions. We got 2. I don't know if you've ever seen Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No.
Okay. That just reminded me, because I have to get these balls to try to get a Turbo Man doll. And this guy had 2, and he's like, he's got 2 in his Arnold Schwarzenegger voice. And there we go. It just kind of reminded me. It's the holidays. Jingle All the Way. There you go. There's your Christmas movie for this year.
All right.
He's got 2. Okay, well, I gotta stay on track here. ADD's kicking in. So the first submission is from Austin Doyle, King Crab Austin on Instagram. DJ Dallas is going off for 12 points this week, 50 yards and a rushing touchdown. That's 11. Start in flex. Ridley catches 2 touchdowns. So
that's 11.
Yeah, that was my side. So I guess we'll give him the 12 points. Maybe he gets 10 yards receiving. He said 50 yards rushing and a touchdown. So maybe 10 yards receiving for good old DJ. But so with that being said, I mean, that's kind of just I don't know if I like that, because it's against the Jets. And yeah, it's the Jets, but like Chris Carson's back and Carlos Hyde's back.
Yeah.
DJ Dallas was, so King Crab Austin, like, I appreciate the gesture and the submission, but I'm not going to, with a clear conscience, advise the rest of you listeners and viewers that you start DJ Dallas. Please do not start him in your flex unless you're Austin, because he believes. But his guy, Calvin Ridley, getting 2 touchdowns against the, how come I keep forgetting who teams are playing? The Falcons are playing the, Lash, help a guy out, save me.
Herbert, the Chargers.
The Chargers, thank you. Ridley catching 2 touchdowns, can totally see that. Obviously start Calvin Ridley. He's like a top 5 wide receiver still, a top 10 in the rankings. So definitely be starting him. But yeah, 2 touchdowns. We'll hold you accountable next week. I'm putting it in the notes, Austin. We'll review that. Lash, any thoughts on DJ Dallas or Calvin Ridley?
My thoughts are that DJ Dallas is definitely not going to do it. If if I was like putting money on this, there's like absolutely a 0% chance that I would bet on this happening. He didn't even log a rushing attempt last week. With Chris Carson and Carlos Hyde back, they really don't need him to fill a role. He only had that one, I guess, 2 decent games while Carson was out. So I'm not betting on DJ Dallas anytime soon. That's for sure.
Not week 1 of playoffs, people. Come on.
Yeah, for some reason, Austin's super high on this guy. He tried to trade a first-round pick for him. Really?
Oh, wow.
Like
Okay.
at the trade deadline. He ended up getting him off waivers later, though, so that tells you what everyone else thinks about him, I guess.
Holy crap, that's good.
Yeah, I can only imagine Chris Carson's going to get healthier too and see larger and larger percent of the snaps, like back to where he was at. So definitely out on that. And then Calvin Ridley. I just read Chris Carson and said it. Calvin Ridley can definitely do that. That Chargers God, I keep calling them the Hawks. Having 2 bird teams in the same city is a problem. The Falcons and Chargers should probably or has potential to go off a little bit. Julio's not there. So, I mean, Calvin Ridley is probably the WR1 there anyways at this point. It's again that 1A, 1B, 1A, 1AA kind of thing. And he's always a threat to get 2 touchdowns. So that's a lot more in the range of outcomes than DJ Dallas going off.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, this is a no-brainer. Please be starting Calvin Ridley. Please do not start DJ Dallas. Thank you for submitting, Austin. We've got a question from Steve Bolin over at Third and Wrong. Herbert or Brady, standard league, first round of playoffs. Well, Steve, as much as I'd love to see a crumble, just because I'm out of playoffs and I just want to see the world burn. I'm going to give you the advice that I'd give myself here. I'd be starting Herbert for sure against the 32nd ranked Falcons defense. Yes, Raheem Morris has come in and made the defense look at least competent over Dan Quinn. However, this is still a very pass-heavy offense. Justin Herbert always adds that ability in the run. Brady does not, obviously. And I think that the Vikings are going to pose a little bit tougher of a matchup in terms of how many points Brady can get versus Herbert. And plus, watching Herbert, he's just electric. So that's my answer there. Herbert over my guy Brady. Yes, the Pats fan is going against his guy Brady. Lash, what say you on this one?
I'm in agreement. I won't bash Brady too hard, as I know you get enough of that from Zach and them on Third and Wrong. I remember listening earlier in the year when he was just going in on how many pick sixes Brady has thrown. I got a good chuckle out of that. But from a strictly objective standpoint, I'm going with Herbert, or I would be going with Herbert if I had to make this decision. I know the last 2 weeks aren't the most promising in a 15-point week against Buffalo, but that won't sink you or shouldn't sink you. That's still a decent line, I guess. And last week was just really, really bad. But that's the Patriots in comparison to the Falcons. The Patriots are a much better coach team. Their defense is always stellar no matter who's out there. So outside of those 2 weeks, there's only been 1 week where he has put up less than 20 points. Matchup be damned kind of thing. And Brady is just super inconsistent this year. He has 2 good games and then he has a down game. His best streak has been 2 good games twice and then a down week. So and recently he's been throwing a lot of picks, just has not looked objectively very good throwing the ball, to be honest. And Bruce Arians has been calling him out on that. He said a lot of this just comes down to the quarterback. I
Oh
was
my
like,
gosh, that's been
damn,
wild to
just
watch.
just calling out the GOAT like that. Okay. And the Minnesota, it's still a good matchup. So like, I don't think you can necessarily go wrong in this decision, but I would definitely be leaning toward Justin Herbert for sure here.
Absolutely. Okay, sweet deal. I wanted to recap. I wanted to recap your pick, your last lash before we get into your last lash for this week. You said Darnold would be around 15 points and there'd be 3 Jets skill players over 10. I wanted to highlight because I scoffed at you, but you were actually pretty close, Lash. I got to give you credit here. Darnold was actually at 20, surprisingly.
Yeah.
Ty Johnson, not Frank Gore, but because of injury, had 17.7 in standard scoring. Jamison Crowder, 16.7. And Josh Adams, the third string running back for the Jets, had 7.4. So 2 and almost a 3. So that wasn't scoff worthy after all. I give you credit. Nobody in their right mind would have been starting Ty Johnson or Josh Adams. However, still got close. So that was a good last lash. You bounced back very well from the Alex Smith one.
I believe at first I started getting really bad with the wording, I know, but at first I think it started with multiple Jets will have fantasy relevant games, and then I set the line at 3. So either way, did pretty good. I listed the Jets defense as a possibility too. They got 7 points, which is like a respectable number for defense. Denzel Mims got 8 points in PPR. It wasn't quite there, but it was pretty good for that hot of a take, I think.
Yeah, that was pretty spicy and it worked out. So what is the last lash for week 14, the playoff edition of the last lash? Oh my gosh, the anticipation is killing me.
Because I don't really have one actually, I'm gonna go with something that's matchup relevant. Yeah, there's nothing really spicy going on this week that I saw. So I'm gonna go with matchup relevant. I'm playing Steve. I've got Corey Davis and Marquise Brown. He's got Nuke Hopkins. I'm gonna say both Corey Davis and Marquise Brown outscore DeAndre Hopkins against the Giants. I don't know if that's spicy enough for you, but it feels like
unfair.
Okay, either one of them. Corey Davis, because that's my guy. Corey Davis will outscore the best receiver in the league.
Or were you saying that combined Corey Davis and Jameson?
Oh no.
Oh, okay. I was like,
Oh, it was
okay, yeah, then that makes sense.
One or the other
okay.
will, or they both would, kind of thing.
Okay, then if that's the case, then there we go. That's a good one to end on.
That might be a bit cheap,
combined.
But no, not combined. It's
like Nuke Hopkins, give him somebody else.
No. Okay, just Corey Davis versus Nuke. Corey Davis is gonna outscore him.
Shit, that's our guy. That's the Fantasy Football for Dummies by Dummies is most hyped up player of the history of the show so far. I can't handle it. He's up against the good old Jaguars. Nope. Who are they? Yep. Yeah, they're up against the Jags. I keep getting the matchups mixed up. I've got like 70 teams on my notes. Some basketball, some hockey. It's just like, what's going on? No, I'm just kidding. So thank you everybody for joining us on the December 12th, week 14 edition of the Fantasy Football for Dummies by Dummies. I am dummy number 1, Austin Della Longa, and with me is dummy number 2 or dummy 1B, Lash Appel. Ladies, he's single at the official Lash on social media. I'm just kidding. Maybe he's not. Who knows?
Yes.
And he's going to be winning his fantasy league after this week for sure. He's going to get some momentum. and get back Julio Jones. So
One
let
can
us know
hope.
how you do on your fantasy playoffs week 1, assuming you're in them, unlike myself. And we'll be back next week for the semifinals edition. Fighting for playoff glory. One quick thing before you head out, actually, if you're still with us, if you've made it this far, if you are still here, share with a friend or share on your social media or subscribe or comment. You got 3 options: comment, subscribe, or share. There you go, 3. One of the 2, it would be greatly appreciated. Spread the love. Let's grow this thing. And Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. See ya. Oh, how do you stop this thing?